Hello and welcome, lovely family of Visa Franchise, to another live session with me, Alaattin Kılıç, and Patrick Findaro. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Alaattin.
Oh my God, I'm hearing myself. Let me just mute that. Cool. All right. You're looking sharp, Patrick. I mean,
Got a haircut
changing,
yesterday.
hairstyles. Yeah, love it. Beautiful. Today, Patrick will be talking about the title. Even before starting this live stream, we kind of like second guessed whether we should go ahead with that title, Business Trends for E2 ESA's 2025. What we're really trying to aim to address in this live stream is really the industries that work, the industries that where our clients with low to medium level of investment by buying a franchise can look at very healthy returns, basically. This was the one of the very first questions that I asked you when I first met you. This was the question that
You were
that I
a
asked.
prospective E2 Visa investor when we met. What
Yeah,
was it?
I
Late
was actually
2023, December 2023.
2023. That's correct. Yeah, I mean that's when you think of it from the perspective of someone who's planning to start a business or buy a franchise for mainly for the purposes of E2 visa. These are the people. I mean, people are generally looking for. Okay, I understand how much money I'm going to spend. I understand where I want to move to, and I understand the conditions of the visa. But I have a few business ideas. What are some of the industries that I can look at where I can get, the most fastest returns? As sometimes, well, oftentimes, our clients are not necessarily business people. They might have professional backgrounds and they might just choose the industry that would work for them. So we'll take a deeper dive in today's session. Before we go into industries, Patrick, you've been doing this for 10 plus years, and you've spoken to thousands and thousands of prospective clients. What would you say? I mean, why do people think of this? Is this a valid question to ask, even, or shall people do what they're good at? And then we'll take a look at the industries that you and I like.
For sure. Yeah, it's important to understand the different industry trends, how they're expected to grow over the coming years, especially in certain cities or states in the United States, as well as just the profit margin. So, if you have a gym concept, maybe you're doing 300K of revenue, but you're making a 30% profit margin. And if you have a service based business like in home senior care, it might be more like $1 million in sales. It's probably going to take 4 or 5 years for you to hit $1 million as you grow the book of business. But the profit margin should be more in the range of 15 to 25%. It could be more if you're, grinding away, working 50, 60-hour weeks. So it's important, to understand the industry's initial investment amounts. Those two examples, the gym might set you back 300, 500K to open, and you're making 100K, and it's going to be easier operationally to run that type of business, but a lot less return. Where the in-home senior care is effectively a staffing business, your initial investment might be closer to $100,000. So it's important to understand the different industry options, and whenever possible, if you're used to providing a service or you're very good at sales or you're very good at managing people, we need to know that. We will ask those questions, but you ideally are leveraging what you're already good at and what you've accumulated experience with, not necessarily on the industry. If it's on the industry level, that's all the much better. But on this specific skill set, sales, marketing, customer service, HR, managing people.
Cool. All right, let's just bring the energy level up a little bit, Patrick. I mean, this is great stuff that we're talking about. These industries, right? There are certainly some that we like, that our clients like, because whenever our clients become successful, when we see them running good, decent businesses, making good incomes and providing for their family and contributing to their society, we kind of tend to favor those industries, compared to the rest of them. Obviously, we won't be talking about, oh, the longevity industry is great, go and invest there. Good luck doing that with 100K with the E2 visa. So we're all talking about from the perspective where you have about 100, 150, maybe up to 250K that you want to invest in, and you're looking to start a small business, right? So what would be the first industry that you would look at, Patrick?
So I would probably look at home services, especially if it's your first time going into entrepreneurship. If you have experience managing people, sales, operations, that could be a good fit for you. So this is anything from residential cleaning, commercial cleaning, building maintenance, to flooring installation, to kitchen and bath remodeling. It's a pretty wide space. Americans spend a lot of money on their homes. I remember one figure that really stuck out for the kitchen and bath remodeling. Americans think it will cost them $20,000 to replace their kitchen, update their kitchen, but in reality, it's closer to $45,000. So if you're doing a lot of remodeling and you're selling a lot of that service and product, you can make significant money in that space.
Yeah, home services, and how about cleaning, Patrick?
I like cleaning, and
residential
Alaattin,
cleaning.
you probably saw the YouTube video I did with our former client, Fabian. And I don't know, can I sell my book a bit on this?
Sure,
I know
go
that's not the
ahead, man.
purpose,
Go ahead.
but we went through 21 success stories, as you know, on all different types of entrepreneurs. And there was one, we'll talk a little bit on the restaurant side. A client from Turkey, your home country, that just kicked ass, very high return on investment. But Fabian's story was he invested $70,000 in a residential cleaning franchise, plus working capital about 30K. Took him 3 months to break even. He says in the interview it could have happened faster. There were some problems with setting up the Google My Business, that local listing, that could have probably brought it down to 2 months. But he's already on his way with 8 cleaners, 2 trucks, with a clear path to increase the recurring revenue that he's receiving. And they're cleaning some really large houses in Boca Raton. So high recurring revenue, already has a brand presence. So Americans like a brand. And oftentimes for SEO, inbound marketing, they can just start getting clients immediately upon opening up the franchise. So that's one that comes to mind. Residential cleaning, where you can kind of scale up naturally the business, starting with 4 cleaners. Say you have 2, they usually go in pairs, and then scale up the business to 20 plus.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Home services, definitely. That's something that one can start with. Investment levels as low as $50,000-$60,000.
Yeah, I mean, some of them, like we did the YouTube short, it was like 4K. That's for someone like really grinding on a budget, and they're leasing and they're doing effectively loan terms. But for the E2 visa, we'd want to see at least 70-80K invested, and for certain nationalities, more like 100-120K invested, in addition to the working capital of say 20 to 30,000.
Got it. How about senior care, Patrick?
So senior care, oftentimes people ask me like what I would do if I wasn't the founding partner at Visa franchise, and I think I would open up an in-home care franchise. Part of it's just the social good. You're helping people in their oftentimes their last years of life, and improving their quality of life in those important years. And that has positive effects for their adult children, their grandchildren. And it's a big societal impact. And it's something that you can scale up more on the business side. So again, starting for 80K, 100K, 120K. And these businesses regularly will do $1 million to $2 million in revenue. And if you do want to sell it, say in year 5, year 7, year 10 of the business operations, if you as the owner are making $300,000 from the business, you could probably sell that for 3 or 4 times what you as the owner make. So we're talking about a business that you invested $100,000 in, and you can sell it for $1 million. This requires a lot of work, like any business in the United States, and I think many businesses around the world, but you are paid handsomely for your work and contribution to society.
Senior care is I remember you were talking to, I guess, Radik Patel.
Exactly.
Yeah. He is the CEO of Options for Senior America. And he was saying something to the tune of, he's very bullish on the senior care industry for the next 20 years, especially boomers.
And he went all in. He raised capital and he bought the whole franchise system, including their corporate locations. So he's all in on this, and he's going to be involved with this brand for many years to come. But it's a business that you don't have to start. You don't need so much money to get the business going, and the financials are very transparent for many of the senior care franchises. But you look at Options for Senior America, and they show you what people are making from month 1 to 3, $85 to $10,000. And you can see, 5 years into the business, they're doing 79,000. And they also disclose the effectively the P&L. So the gross profit, what you're paying in rent, royalties, EBITDA. So as an owner, this is a business that, according to this FDD, and you'll verify that with existing franchisees, as our clients have done, the owner is taking home about $300K, so a very healthy profit margin. Again, this is at least 3 years in operation. It's taking some time to hit those numbers, but it's a really promising business.
For sure. Cool. Let's divert from senior care a little bit. What would be another industry that you like? How about pet care and pet services?
Well, yeah, I have a dog, a Bernedoodle, and we have experience with clients investing in all sorts of pet businesses. Again, in my book, Adrian opened up a client from Venezuela who leveraged his Italian passport, opened up a Wolfgang bakery in Idaho. He's opened up the 2nd and 3rd location, and he was an employee as well, similar to Fabian, who opened up the residential. They were senior employees working at very reputable organizations, Procter and Gamble for Adrian, and then Royal Bank of Canada for Fabian. But they were able to leverage their ability for managing people, analytics, understanding the data, the marketing data coming in, how you spend the money, and really leaning hard on the franchisors. So a Wolfgang bakery might set you back higher investment, 200 to 300K. So it's going to be more money, but it's a business that you don't necessarily have to work as many hours as it gets scaled up. And there's a clear path to opening up, again, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th location where you have a regional manager, and turn more into a CEO model rather than for senior care. Largely, you're in the front lines doing the sales, cultivating the relationships, and with Wolfgang Bakery as well as some retail concepts, it's a higher investment amount, but I would say it's generally less of a grind, especially in those first 2 to 3 years. It's always hard work, these small businesses, but kind of comparing the two, you're going to put more work in generally for some of these service businesses.
Of course. We have a question here from Anna Trad. Hi, can I invest in a franchise with a manager in place, or do I need to be actively running the business?
I don't recommend it, unless you're very wealthy and you're fine earning a lot less money from the business. I do recommend that you come in, you set the culture. No one's going to care as much about the business success as you, the owner, and that rubs off on the employees. Leading by example. First one in, first one out, at least for the first 18 months, and really setting the corporate culture that you want that will largely reflect on your personal values and your personal culture, as well as a lesser extent other franchisees, as well as the franchisor.
Got it.
It is possible, but I don't recommend it. But depending on your circumstances, it could be a good fit.
How about Patrick? I get this question a lot. Sometimes our prospective clients are asking that buying a franchise and then asking the franchisor the assistance in hiring a manager to run the business, to head the day to day.
Well, they can assist you, and you can, most of the franchise systems, for nothing or a small fee, you can send the manager for what was the training for you, the franchisee, the owner. So that's definitely possible, where they're going to support you, and they're incentivized to get that manager up to speed, and so you can continue to grow the business in terms of top line revenue and the profits to you as the business owner. So the franchisor will help you. Oftentimes they have very specific channels in terms of sourcing those managers, training those managers, whether it's online training or in person back at the franchise headquarters.
Cool. All right, we said pet care, pet services. How about another one?
So we said residential cleaning. I don't want to constantly be on the cleaning side, but it is something that Americans, we don't like to do stuff ourselves. I don't know if you've seen that, Alaattin. Now living in Miami Beach for over a year, about a year. Americans don't like to do. We want someone to come in and clean. So the business owners, the even the property managers. The property manager doesn't want to be managing the cleaners. They'd rather have a separate company come in and make sure that everything is resolved.
Yeah. No, definitely agree.
1 second, Alaattin. I just have to charge. I have to plug in my camera to make sure that it doesn't turn off.
Sure. Yeah. All right, guys. So we would appreciate the questions if you guys can send them over. And also, if you can like the video, we would appreciate it very much so. But just to recap, what we are talking today with Patrick is that we're looking at certain industries that would present a higher chances of success with the investment levels and the investment modes that our prospective clients are generally thinking about. So we kind of went through some of these industries. At the beginning, we talked about the home services, which you got cleanings, repair, maintenance, and roofing, tiling, handyman services, plumbing franchises that you can buy and get it going. So these are very important. And then we touched upon senior care, we touched upon pet services, and briefly we touched upon commercial cleaning, and almost like a little bit to the property management services. And as we were doing that, Patrick's camera went off, and he seems to be back, pixelized though. What happened, Patrick?
So the camera I have, I'm using a backup camera at the moment. Well, let me turn off the green screen so it doesn't look as pixelized.
No, that's okay. That's all right. That's completely fine. Yeah. So these are the industries, and I guess another question to address here would be: are most EB-5 projects still real estate focused, or are other industries growing in popularity now? EB-5 projects in regional centers are generally real estate focused. I mean, it's the easiest thing to do. You have the variations of the real estate, of course. You have, hotel projects, projects that are, residential, commercial, all the varieties of the real estate industry, as well as other industries that are growing in popularity. But I can't really think of anything that could even potentially rival the sheer market share of the real estate projects that are in the EB-5 space. Can you, Patrick?
No, and I think it's something that people like as an underlying asset, where if the project bellies up and if it was properly structured, you at least have the land and the building to go after.
All right, cool. Let's get back in track. Let's talk about another industry. Patrick, what do you think about automotive services as an industry for E-2 visa?
It can be a good option, especially if you have experience in the automotive space. Cars are lasting a lot longer, so there's more service demands. Also in the US, there's very specialized ones that do very specific things like just oil change. So there are some great franchise opportunities in the automotive service space, whether it's detailing, repairs. It does, the unit economics tend to be pretty good, but it does require management of technicians, which and sourcing technicians, where depending on where you live, it might be difficult and there could be some constraints on the hiring side.
Cool. And how about car wash or mobile car detailing, especially in places like Miami? There's a high demand, especially for luxury cars. Have you seen success in car wash related?
It can work. It's going to be very location dependent. So you got to really make sure you have the right location where you have those wealthy consumers that are coming in spending $50, $100, $150 to wash their car or have it detailed.
All right, cool. Guys, if you haven't liked the video yet, please do like the video and send in your questions if you might have. That would be great. We would really appreciate that. But Patrick, taking a step back, and let me ask you a little bit of a philosophical question. I understand the reasons why people would look at, certain industries and based on, the industry metrics and the industry's future growth and etc. But isn't it also relative that somebody's background and someone should do what's consistent with their core competences and what's synonymous with their passions, rather than one particular industry? Because what we're talking about here is a small business. It's a mom and pop shop plus an employee, maybe two, right? So it's the pressure is on you to succeed, and it's your own show. If that is the case, should you be chasing money or should you be chasing industry trends? Or rather, should you be doing what you are uniquely positioned to do?
It's a personal question. You have passion, purpose, profits. So it's hard to have all three. So, ideally you're passionate about it. And then purpose would be you're employing 100 caregivers and you're contributing to their livelihoods. And then profits might be, depending on who you are, 100K, 300K coming into you and your family. So it's going to depend a lot on you. If you can strike that balance of getting the three P's, then it makes sense and try to do that. But passion might come outside of work. I would focus more on the purpose as well as on the profits, especially as your E-2 visa is going to be tied to this, or your EB-5 visa is going to be tied to this. So I would focus first on that. And if we're able to also align your passions together, all the better.
Cool. And looking back at our, the 10 years that you spent in this industry, Patrick, and recently we haven't officially announced the book, which we will pretty soon, that we have 20 now, 20 plus success stories. Own your American dream. There you
21.
are.
You pushed
There
me
you
to, I had, I
21.
think, 14, and you pushed me to
I push you to
get
21.
some more success stories, reach out to some of our former clients that opened in the last 12 months, 24 months. So we got the number up.
And this is a very, very important, very valuable book, where you have 21 plus people talking about their own experiences and how they did it themselves. At one point, we wanted to call the book "They Did It, So Can You." It's a very pinpoint title, talking about the experience of those who have been through what you are thinking about, right? So they open up about their fears, their desires, what went wrong, what went right. It's a very, very valuable information. Patrick, when is this book going to be live? I mean, when are we going to be
It
able to get
just
our
launched
hands?
yesterday. So we'll be sure to include the links. Sabrina can add the links if anyone wants to download the book to your Kindle or ebook device, or purchase a physical copy. It's available in 10 plus countries. So depending where you're tuned in, if you're in Canada, UK, you can order the book, and we're working in the next, say, 60 days to have it translated into other languages.
I think this is going to be a great book. It already is. I mean, I went through it, as you know,
Yeah, no,
and
appreciate the help on the
I would have
manuscript.
loved to have a book like this, if I was thinking about moving to the US with E-2 visa. Because I mean, you can ask for a consultant, you can ask, lawyer or business broker or a CPA, so long as, 'cause the dynamic is not the same. When you ask a consultant, the consultant will provide you answers, of course, but at the end of the day, we'll want your business, right?
Yes.
These people don't want your business. These people don't know you, and they're not talking about you.
They're
And
just
they have
sharing their
nothing to learn from you.
stories. What went well, the issues that they had, problems.
Yeah, so that's very important, and I'm really, really excited about that. Okay, cool. As we wrap up, Patrick, let's go back to your book and talk about one or two more success stories where you could say, hey, look, this, I think, is one of, if not the biggest success story of someone who's buying a franchise, scaling it up to the 10 plus locations, that territories that they were able to do, and now, here are some of here are some of their key points that we can learn from.
Yeah, definitely. So just kind of going through, because there is a lot to choose from. Let's
I
go
know.
with. So keep in mind, for the book, we have 21 case studies. I think like 7 of them we didn't publish their name, and we changed a few identifying information, so they didn't want to be known. So we have some very successful people that, like, for example, John Orsini from Canada, who was a seasoned architect in Ottawa, and kind of hit his peak in terms of growing the business. Very motivated by his Italian immigrant father, saw him grow the business, but kind of felt like Ottawa, he kind of grew out of it, considered moving to Toronto, but decided to try his luck down in California. And he was one of our earlier clients, I believe, engaged us back in 2016. We were founded in 2015, and really pushed the launch in 2016. One of our early clients, and he had some troubles along the way. It was one of our first E-2 visa cases. He tried to obtain the E-2 visa with just $42,500 invested.
Wow.
The franchise fee and the deposit for the office. He was denied. We leaned on our network, the business plan writer that we use to really dig into other real estate property management businesses that were approved. He invested in Google Ads, Facebook Ads, Meta now. Bought a vehicle for the business that he would need to visit the properties, and then allocated additional working capital and was approved. And since then, he now oversees 1,000+ doors, so apartments and homes in Los Angeles County. So he's kicking ass. His wife was able to obtain the EB-2 green card through sponsorship of where she works. And that was kind of the missing piece, where I would talk to him, visit him on my California trips, and business was generally going well. There's always ups and downs, but until his wife and family secured the green card, it was always kind of like a bit of an open sore, because they didn't know, what could happen. So he's doing well financially, has built a big asset that he can continue running. And he's also moved on to other entrepreneurial ventures in the United States.
So what would you say, like, how much he invested initially and how many years later, where does the value of the business stand today?
$110K invested, and the business is probably worth between $1 and $2 million.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So
And that's
again, I don't want to understate the work that goes into that, but in the US compared to like Turkey, Brazil, these other markets, there's a very liquid market for buying businesses. You have wealthy individuals, you have private equity, you have fellow franchisees, maybe the franchisor wants to buy it back from you. There are a lot of business transactions. So if you do want to sell, it's usually a 6-month process to sell your franchise business.
Cool. Let's talk about one last industry of your choice, Patrick, and then we wrap it up. I would want to focus on, and I actually want to know more about from you, the education, tutoring, child education. I'm not going to talk about child care services, but more on the education side, things such as, Amazing Athletes or Mathnasium or franchises that are operating in that industry. So what would be your initial sort of like overlook on the education industry? And in terms of franchises, what sort of franchises are there and who should be looking at them and what the potential there would be?
Definitely. I wanted to populate a couple options that our clients have invested in over the years. So let's start with Tutoring Club. We've had about 10 clients invest in Tutoring Club. They're based in Orange County, California. And that's a business that might set you back $100,000, $150,000. And it's basically providing remedial education. So advancing maybe in subjects that you're not as good at, as well as some further cementing. So improving your, SAT scores, maybe diving in physics or diving in math. So they help with both, and it's owned by a former student of Tutoring Club, as well as one of the franchisees. They ended up buying out the whole franchise system. It's a brand that's been around, I think, 40 years now. So we have a great working relationship with them. I think we met them 9 years ago, had our first client with them 8 years ago. So that's a really positive business that you're going to make a big impact in your local community, and you can source graduate students that will work part-time in the business. It's a good business for the E-2 visa, as well as some other categories, whether you're trying to get the green card through a talent visa, or even if you have a business abroad with the L1 visa. We've had success with Tutoring Club. So say you're watching this from Brazil, you don't have an E-2 visa passport, but you have a company in Brazil with 10, 20 employees, you could open up a Tutoring Club and you could secure the L1 visa through that way. So That would be an option, as well as success on the spectrum, which kind of blurs healthcare / education with providing applied behavioral therapy for kids that are on the spectrum of autism. And in my book, you probably saw the case study, Alaattin, for Augustin and his brother, who they opened up a center, and now they're opening up a second center in Virginia for success on the spectrum. They have 18 employees, most of those are therapists, and you're providing a huge impact. And in the interview that will go live in 2 weeks, but you can already read it in my book, the condensed version. Success on the Spectrum gave a lot of support dealing with insurance, sourcing the therapist, and Augustin's aunt had already been a therapist for 20 years. So it's a family business. Augustin's brother, Rodrigo's back in Bolivia. The aunt's been in Virginia for quite some time. He came on the E-2 visa, and it's a growing family business that's really making a positive contribution to the U.S. as a whole, as more and more people are diagnosed with autism, and there's a lot of benefits to having the diagnosis earlier rather than later. And in a similar regard, Tutoring Club, the curriculum's all by them, and the methods, how to recruit teachers. So our clients able to really lean hard on the franchisor to scale up their business operations.
Well, that's such a noble thing to do, and if you can hit it right, it can be very profitable as well. What were the 3 P's that you talked about? Purpose, passion, and profit?
Yeah, it was a guest I interviewed on our podcast, Bruce, that said the 3 P's: purpose, passion, profit.
Purpose, passion, profit. Very beautiful. I guess that should be that's really the goal. Again, industries are important. The outlook is important. Got to make sure that these are right industries for you. But if the 3 P's are there, if there's a good match with who you are and what it means to you, well, then the success is going to be inevitable, I hope. Patrick Findaro, as we close, are there any final remarks you are yet to make? So that
if you're thinking about moving to the U.S., do yourself a favor. We've priced the book very affordably, 99 cents right now for the next month. Get the book. You'll learn from 21 people that have been there before. We go through 8 different options, 8 different business options: buying a business, buying a franchise, starting your own business. Those are just 3 of the 8 options. So dig in the other 5. We go through different visa options, whether it's to get the E-2 visa, move here initially. I mentioned the L1, as well as permanent green card options, as well as all the other family stuff. What do you do about health insurance? What do you do about business bank accounts, personal bank accounts? How does credit work in the US? What is cost of living when you compare San Diego, Houston, Miami? So we dive into it all, also retirement savings. How does that work out? How can you set that up for your business? So it's really sets you up to move to the United States, have success in the US, but also really set your foundation in the first year or 2 while you're here. And the family logistics is really important, as you know firsthand, Alaattin. Like, if your family's not happy, if things aren't stable at home, how are you going to focus on growing a business? And so you got to nail that part too. And we help you to better understand the U.S. dynamic, so you, your spouse, your kids can adapt smoothly, so you can focus on the business. And it's pretty cool. We're already a top 150,000 book on the Kindle store, 29 in starting a business for the Kindle store. So I'm sure we're behind some top ones like Peter Thiel, 0 to 1, Crossing the Chasm I read, the Lean Startup I read. So we've had some good, the Harvard Buying a Small Business. So I'm happy. I'd love to be number 1. Let's see if we get there. And again, thanks for everyone. If you're watching, if you contributed to this book, whether it was on the manuscript edits like you, Alaattin, or if it was on the actual success stories or former clients, as well as just people in our network that moved 15 years ago, 20 years ago on the E-2 visa. We went back, way back. Thanks again for your contribution.
Patrick Findaro, this is a proud moment indeed, and I'm sure this book will be appreciated by our base and our entourage, as it provides a lot of value. So go in there and do what needs to be done, guys. And hey, Patrick, thanks for your time and thanks for your insights. We'll see you next week, guys. Thanks for joining and thanks for being with us.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Bye.